joining me live via Skype. That is Gerald Bitok all the way. Gerald Bitok, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How was your weekend?
Quite well. We are a bit disappointed. The Freedom Day was postponed.
Pardon?
The Freedom Day was postponed, so we are a bit disappointed, but you're okay.
Well, let's just hope things will change soon.
Yeah.
You know what, Gerald, I want us to begin by a look at the People Daily. I know a lot is happening in the political scene. Quite a number of stories have been making headlines. But let's just take a look at the story making headlines today. On the front page, CJ takes battle to Uhuru's doorstep. This story, Gerald, talking about Maraga accusing head of state of violating the constitution and frustrating administration of justice by refusing to appoint 41 judges approved by Judicial Service Commission in the latest tiff between the two leaders. Your thoughts about this story? Let's just begin there.
I think the war on judiciary had been declared back in 2018. You remember after 2017. You remember after the nullifications of the general elections at that time. There was a president that came out very angry and said that he was going to revisit the judiciary. And I think he stayed true to his word. He has really revisited the judiciary in a very big way. And it was not a matter of if, it was just a matter of when. And since the beginning of 2018, or the second term of the government, that's been very clear that the government has not been keen on empowering judiciary. But again, Leah, it's important to note that judiciary is not a branch of the executive. It's an independent arm of government, the same way the legislature is. Judiciary is an equal of the executive in its operational independence. So the president is in bad taste to manipulate judiciary and the way it operates. It has been denied funds. Money and budgets continues to be cut in a country where we are continuing to put money in the wrong places. So I think the war on judiciary is a war on the constitution. And I would say this very confidently without any fear of doubt or any fear of reprimand, that the president is acting out of his constitutional mandate. And when he swore to protect the constitution, not to protect his interest. There's a difference between running a country and running a home or running a private business.
Well, Gerald,
the country...
You know, this story, Father, talking about, about 37,000 cases are still in the backlog, right? And basically what Maraga is saying, he is actually blaming the president for the backlog of cases that we have, connecting it, of course, to the fact that he feels the president has refused to appoint the 41 judges. And he's very disgruntled about it, considering the backlog of cases. What do you think about the backlog of cases and considering what accusations are coming against the president from Maraga right now?
The backlog of cases, of course, is two-faced. First, judiciary has been denied funds. The second thing is that the president has refused to approve the appointment of the judges. And do you remember that these judges have been approved by the Judicial Service Commission, which is the arm that actually that investigates and actually forwards the names of those judges to the president. The president is only supposed to approve, but the president has also taken, he has taken a responsibility that's not his. He's supposed to approve. He's not supposed to investigate because the investigation is done by the Judicial Service Commission. He claims that the judges have corruption cases or are not have integrity issues, but these judges are serving in the courts in the highest court of this country. So it's doublespeak for the president to claim or the government to claim that these guys have an integrity issues, but still retain them as judges. So the backlog, of course, is informed by the fact that the operations of the courts have been paralyzed because of the judges that have not been approved, and also there's a budgetary problem.
Shouldn't we be supporting the president when it comes to at least being concerned about the persons he appoints as judges? All matters integrity are, that's a very huge concern for any president and any leader. Even for us as Kenyans, we need to have persons of integrity.
Leah will support the president, but will not support him when he's violating the constitution. This is very clear. He claims that these guys have integrity issues. The judiciary has requested for proof of integrity issues. They have requested for documents on issues that they are being accused of. The government has not provided it. And the government cannot operate like a witch doctor's paradise. where things are done in the dark and nobody wants to show, or what the problems are having with you. If Leah have integrity issues with you, I'll come out and say, these 1 to 3 is what I have. I have issues with you. It should be taken to court if there's an issue of integrity. There's no way you can talk about 40 charges having issues of integrity and still serving as judges. It conflicts the whole thing. If the president is serious about the issues of integrity, especially in judiciary, then he should make a move. He's the president. Let them prosecute these people. He should push for a formation of a commission that's going to not only investigate, but also prosecute these people. We live in a country, Leah, where we talk about accusations that are flying every day. We can wake up today and say, Leah, has integrity issues, Leah has it, and these and that in the government. But the government has the burden of proof, and it has not in any way given evidence or actually documents or accusations to back up their accusations. So that is misplaced in my own way. It is too political, and will not stand and allow the government or the executive to molest the constitution, to violate the constitution, and also to reverse the gains of democracy in this country. The judiciary must be respected. The judiciary must be given the independence it deserves. Because, Leah, remember, you'll also need justice one day. If it gets to a point where you and the government or the executive are sitting in one table where you want justice, the executive might trample on your rights on justice because it controls the judiciary. So if we cheer the president as he violates the judiciary, then we are setting, a clear platform and precedents for anarchy.
Okay. Well, let's move on to page 2, Gerald. A story here reads, the headline, prisons face food crisis over tender row. The story talking about a food shortage crisis is looming in Kenya's prisons and remand homes following a High Court decision to halve a multi-billion shilling tender. The court order follows a petition by a Kiambu-based civil society which claims the tendering process for the supply of essential commodities, including food, is a scheme by top officials in the prisons department, which falls under the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination, to prefer public resources. Have you been following this?
I told you some times back that presidential declarations and action on the ground are two different things. In that story, there is an issue of also delayed payments by the government to other suppliers. There's a complaint of that sense. On exactly the issue at hand is an issue of violation of procurement processes. You are talking about a PS who is advertising for a tender that's already in force. There's a tender for that period, as it has been said. So it's corruption of the highest order. And there's no way, Leah, you can tell me fighting corruption in the judiciary when there's glaring corruption in the government institutions that the president should be focusing on. The president is busy elsewhere. The ministries are pilfering public resources. They are completely, dropping the public offer. So it's hypocritical to claim that the government is fighting corruption when this is a very glaring issue of corruption and pilferage of government resources or public resources. The issue at the prisons is very clear. The PS has turned the prison into an haven or a private haven where you wake up in the morning and just what further standards. There's also a detail in that story where the PS has already given award letters to companies even before they open the tenders. I have never seen where that happens. So this is criminal. And actually, the PS should already be in jail. But since he's not in jail, he'll just be roaming around. Then, where does it leave us as Kenyans? And Kenyans of integrity like you should be able to push for such things.
Gerald, even as the events unfold, it is said that the department, which takes care of more than 57,000 inmates in correctional facilities, according to this story, across the country, is reeling from controversy over a 6 billion shillings debt owed to suppliers, and suppliers have accused the PS, like you've mentioned, of delaying the payments 1 year after President Uhuru Kenyatta directed that the money be released 1 year later. What does that speak of, our government?
That's the same government you just defended a few minutes ago. The same government is the government that is molesting the Constitution. That's why you're violating the Constitution. And it is even violating the procurement process that it has set itself. You talk about 1 year down the line since the president declared that the suppliers be paid. Where is this money? And I remember I told you this thing, same again, because I trade with government and I know the way it operates. Declarations by the president does not in any way affect the operations of such cartels in ministries. And these ministries are controlled by people who think it's their private property. They wake up today and decide they're going to pay Leah, and not pay Gerald. They wake up today and say they're going to pay Gerald and not pay Leah for the next 3 or 5 years. When you look also at the pricing that is done at the ministry, at the prisons, 900%. Someone is making profits of 900%. A kg of millet is being sold at 1,000 shillings. A kg of millet in my village is 50 shillings, 50 shillings. If it goes further, it's 100 shillings, on the highest. This is someone who is applying the same millet at 1,000. So we need to be reasonable there. As much as we want to think about the lives of 57,000 inmates that we are talking about the prison department taking care of, there's a need for us to sanitize the way our government operates. Because if you operate on empathy, then we lose the rule of law and we lose, we lose the rules that we've set. There's no way we can replace procurement laws with empathy and say, now, let's feel empathy for those people who are in there, while we allow corruption to continue staying rife and actually expanding in that department. So in my own opinion, this is a criminal case. And in fact, there is no crisis as we speak because we have a tender that is ongoing. What the PS is doing is that he wants to overlap things. You want to have a tender that's already running over supplies and create another tender on top of it, and he has already approved. So it is misplaced in every way, and the court's direction and decision is very, very justified, very justified. So the next thing we should be able to see is the PS being arraigned in court. If is not getting arraigned in court, then we don't have any business claiming that we are fighting corruption in this country. We have zero business.
Gerald, let's move on to page 5. Another story here, the headline reads, EACC gets nod to seize Kidero property. This story talking about anti-corruption agency wins right to search and seize property under investigation over alleged graft in major ruling. Well, the anti-graft agency, Gerald, according to this story, has secured a major victory yesterday following a court decision that allows it to search and seize property under investigation for alleged corruption. In the ruling arising from the case of former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero, in which Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission was a party, the court also declared that searches on the premises of suspects can be conducted even if they are not notified, as long as they meet the criteria set out in the law. A development, yes?
There's a song we used to sing back in Sunday school about the green hill far away, that is Calvary, where Jesus died and he cleansed our sins. I'm still wondering why Kidero has not gone to Capitol Hill for his cleansing. I'm still wondering why he hasn't, because it's very clear the way you've seen the roller coaster that has gone around the cases of Kidero. Yes, it is a win. It's a public relations win for the anti-corruption wing in terms of. And let me ask you, how many cases has EACC prosecuted? How many billions has it recovered from corruption cases? Kidero's case is not an isolation. It's an issue of a political, of an anti-corruption crusade turned political. Kidero was very clear that he was pilfering government resources, public resources, ever since he was governor. It's almost 5 years down the line, and Kidero is still walking free. What does that tell you? It tells you that there is no seriousness in terms of fighting the issue. The new case of EACC actually taking possession of Kidero's properties should also reek of suspicion. We have other corrupt people. You remember Sonko had been accused of corruption the other day. He was taken to court until he went to Capitol Hill. He made an handshake. He went to his Upper Hill office, branded vehicles on BBI and all that. I'm wondering why Kidero has not bought vehicles and branded the BBI to save himself. Because the anti-corruption crusade in this country is a joke. It is a complete joke. And the issue on Kidero, I have a lot of reservations. Not because I want to defend corruption, but because I want to defend a clean.
Gerald, let's give a background of this story. So the judge says that the warrant authorized EACC to investigate unexplained assets owned by Kidero, and such investigation must require assessment of the value of the properties in question. He's not able to explain. Okay. Yes?
Which is very okay. I mean, the government, the judiciary has all the rights to give a fair ruling the way it has done. It has said that Kidero cannot explain some source of his wealth. And it is okay for the EACC to take possession of the properties by Kidero. But again, where does it put the war against corruption is my question. Because for me, it's not just about reading the news. It's about looking at what has been happening before and what will happen next. It's very predictable that, well, as much as the courts have given EACC the rights into Kidero's property, are we going to see any positive developments, especially for the Mwananchi? How many billions are going to recover from Kidero? The next thing, in the next newspaper in 2 weeks, you'll be reading that Kidero has been cleared, depending on how he does his things. So it's a win. I appreciate that there seems, and actually the judiciary has taken a stand, and I want to commend the judiciary there. In all rights, the judiciary has been doing quite an amazing job in terms of fixing these corruption issues. But you have other governments, arms of government that are very lazy, that refuse to take their responsibilities. So it's a win. It's a win for the layman to look at the issues that the court had decided. But again, the implementation will be another thing. So let's give it a week or two or a month. We see if we're going to get any gains from that fight. Or will Kidero manages to explain himself out of it? If he doesn't, then it's left for us to see if the government will actually recover the money that Kidero is accused of stealing and bring back to the public coffers.
All right, page 6, Gerald. The headline reads, Duale safe as MPs meeting to discuss his ouster moved. Of course, there was a feeling that, perhaps he thought he was out of the woods, but, well, things seem to be shifting for Duale on a daily basis. We really can't tell his fate, considering that the list of 126 lawmakers pushing for his removal as House Majority Leader forwarded to the president. And this story, Gerald, talking about the fate of Duale back in the hands of President Uhuru Kenyatta after the latter was handed a list of 126 Jubilee Coalition MPs who want him sacked. I was speaking to a gentleman yesterday, and he said probably the president does not want to take flak for this decision or whatever happens to Duale. So now we are seeing this story talking about that Duale's fate is back in Uhuru's hands. What do you make of this continuous changes as far as the fate of Duale is concerned?
I say this, you remember I said this in our last interview, even before the PG, the parliamentary PG, and I said that Duale is not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Duale is not going anywhere, and he's not about to go anywhere, will still be there. You remember Duale is a very good noisemaker. And in politics, you must learn how to be an incessant noisemaker. You must learn how to wake up in the morning and make noise, in the afternoon still make noise, and make noise in the evening. Ensure that you keep everyone uncomfortable. Duale is very good at that. And Duale has been so deep in Jubilee that he knows a lot of things that have been going on in Jubilee. And it will be very dangerous to get rid of him. Duale also comes from a minority population that for the longest time has complained about the representation in this country. The way the Somali community operates is quite impressive. These guys, they might disagree politically during the day, but at night, they converge and have dinner and talk about their political future and their representation in the country. And that is why you see they're making strides both in business and also in politics. So Duale controls a very big stake in Kenyan politics. First, in the fact that he might open another Pandora box in terms of discrimination of certain communities. And I was also seeing in the same story, there's the issue of Haji, Senator Haji. And Senator Haji does not have any relations with Duale politically, or either way, apart from the fact that they come from Northeastern community. So it will be a very tough one for the president. And I can tell you that yesterday there were messages, of course, calling MPs for a meeting at the party headquarters where they had the intention of kicking Duale out. But I can tell you the president is going to prevail the same way he prevailed and rescued him in the first time at the PG meeting. And again, right now, he has also rescued him for the second time. Duale is not going anywhere. And these MPs, they get used to it. And I've also seen, I've liked the way the feedback and the rebuttal from the president. He has said that the MPs should focus on the approvals of budgets in the parliament, or should focus actually on lawmaking or their mandate as lawmakers in the contribution of the country's economy and leadership. So I think the MPs have their energies in the wrong place. And I told you this last time, is that the hypocrisy in the Jubilee Purge is the fact that there are people who have been declared as sacred cows because they support the president. And these are the same people who will finish the president. You see these people are politicizing, and actually they want to continue on which hand. Just because I disagree with you, Leah, and the president is out on a purge, I bring in a motion. You remember when the motion came out, Kanini Kega refused. He actually denied the report and said that he was not part of it, and he said that he had not drafted any motion for parliament for removal of Duale. Today, it's out here that he was the one who was drafting the ouster Duale. So we are
Gerald,
talking about respecting the president, Leah.
if what you're saying
The
is anything
argument
to
is
go by,
let's respect the president. But again, these people are not respecting the president. The president said Duale should remain. Why is Kanini Kega pushing an agenda that's against the president's decision? So in short, nobody is respecting the president, including his own allies.
well, if what you're saying is anything to go by, let me add this. So this story further talks about the new development, the one that we've been talking about, coming even as a meeting scheduled at Jubilee Party headquarters yesterday to discuss a petition by Kenny Member of Parliament, Kanini Kega, seeking Duale's removal was called off. You know, it will be interesting to see, well, how this story pans out in the coming days. I don't know if what you believe will be the case, but let's just see, because I think the world of politics is very dynamic. Anything is possible. Well, let's move on, Gerald, to page 8. A story here with a headline that's reading, country records highest recoveries as 97 discharged. Good news for the country. Talking about a mixture of good and bad news yesterday, as the country recorded the highest number of recoveries in 24 hours, while the number of coronavirus cases inched closer to 3,000 after 95 more people tested positive. Of course, we do expect that the numbers will keep increasing, and that is what we have heard from the government, even from the World Health Organization, world over. Gerald.
It's not yet Uhuru. It's not yet Uhuru. That's what I would say. And we should be happy, of course, that we have recovered, but again, the cases are continuing to go up. So maybe it's time that we need to revamp our mitigation measures against the coronavirus. But again, I think there needs to be transparency in the way government is fighting coronavirus. All these announcement of numbers and counter numbers is not helping anyone. We need to break it down to an expense, to break it down to a patient. We need to personalize the fight against COVID-19. And I say this, and I'll still say this, but the reason why, and I'll tell that I do not want to sound a bit political, but I think the easiest way for countries to fight coronavirus is if the IMF and the World Bank stops giving loans to Africans to fight coronavirus. You know, and I think that's where, for us to be objective for this war, then we need to be more responsible and take it more personal for us to address it. So the 90 recoveries are quite good news, something to celebrate. But again, we are talking about cases that are spreading now in that country. Elgeyo Marakwet has recorded an almost 25 people positive cases. Elgeyo Marakwet in a corner. These are places where we have elder people over 60 years. You know, we are talking about Eldoret, Tarbo constituency, is already recording a lot of cases because of the backlog of the trucks along the highway. We are talking about Soy constituency, which is also, it's spreading up country and actually following up on where the government is making directives. So it makes the question there, is the government harmonizing or actually investigating and looking deeply into its strategies? The reason why we have coronavirus today in Eldoret is because of the backlog on Malaga border. And it's coming up. The spread is coming up and also spreading to counties. In Nandi County, Nandi County already has a case. Deep in the bush already has a case, Nandi County. So we have the gains of recoveries. But again, we should be more concerned about the spread of the virus, especially going to our country. We have not managed to lock it up and contain it in the counties that you talked about, the hotspots that you talked about. So it begs the question, should we now move and close him and close Eldoret as well? So the recoveries are good. The trends are not good in any way. The trends are not good. The recoveries are good. The trends are very worrying.
All right. Page 14, a related story here still on COVID-19. The headline reads, Medix pour cold water on home-based care proposal. The Medix practitioners yesterday expressed concern, Gerald, that rushed home-based care without proper guidelines for COVID-19 patients will lead to surge in new cases. Now, with the country, COVID-19 cases nearing the 3,000 mark, Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, KMPDU, yesterday petitioned the Ministry of Health to improve primary health care first. I would say, do you think these are valid concerns? Also considering the fact that the World Health Organization has given clear guidelines, and the concern also for many being the fact that they are not too sure if, poor neighborhoods are even able to carry forth the whole idea of home-based care. What are your thoughts, Gerald, about this?
Let me ask you, if the government cannot handle patients in hospital, how can normal civilians handle those patients at home? It's quite unreasonable. It's outrageous, actually. The same government wants to scare us that the virus is very dangerous, and if we treat it normally, it's going to treat us abnormally. But they want to treat it normally. Telling patients to go and stay at home to be treated is treating it normally. It's exposing the people who are at home. How do you talk about isolation? Because the guidelines, the WHO guidelines are very clear that the patients need to have their own rooms. How many people in this country can afford to have a different room for a patient? Unless the other ones are going to live outside. So if the government has failed to control the disease in hospitals, what makes sense to control the disease at home? You're talking about ICU beds that are very limited. CI County, they say there are 10 ICU beds. You talk about other counties even have as little as 5 beds. So the government should be focusing, and I agree with the medical practitioners, the government should be focusing on actually ensuring that it equips the hospital or the medical sector. It expands the facilities that we need or that we have. If you look at other countries like Nigeria, they have built hospitals, makeshift hospitals that are handling coronavirus cases. In this country, we've not seen. You're talking about schools that have been used as corona isolation centers and treatment centers. The question is, where is the infrastructure that we're talking about to handle the coronavirus? The government should be more keen on building the infrastructure, albeit temporary, but at least to fix the issue. If you look at what happened in China, the first time they had a disease, they had to build hospitals and hundreds and tens of hospitals to be able to handle this virus. So in Kenya, we have a big problem. We're talking about billions of money that are being spent in the wrong places, like FMT and all that. So the money, yesterday the EU gave Kenya 7.8 billion Kenyan shillings. If I was Uhuru Kenyatta, I would use that money to ensure that I build an hospital in every county, especially the affected counties, to ensure that I expand the infrastructure. You cannot be talking about taking loans and spending money and still talking about patients going up. So this is a very serious risk that the government should not in any way consider. It should not even think about it. Let it focus on ensuring that it provides the facilities and the infrastructure to handle coronavirus or COVID-19 in the medical and actually the Ministry of Health in the hospitals. So let's expand the infrastructure. Let's not even think about sending these patients on, because we cannot afford to take care of a COVID-19 patient at all.
All right. Well, let's just take a look at one last story here, Gerald. Briefly, page 15, there's a story here reading, police turn face masks order into cash cow. This story, Gerald, talking about a majority of Kenyans are reeling from the negative impact of the coronavirus pandemic, but a few individuals seem to be reaping big. And among them, as most Kenyans are praying for the immediate discovery of a vaccine for the virus, a section of police officers are allegedly particularly, wishing otherwise. And this police officer is based in rural areas.
I told you this, and I'll keep telling you this, that unless the government takes it up seriously, we have no business taking it seriously. I actually have a friend, the mask issue and the curfew issues are cash cows. People have been moving all through the roads, through the roadblocks, because of the rife corruption in those roadblocks. Those things have been happening. You're talking about masks are cash cows. I have a friend who was arrested the other day when he was having a jog around Gong Road, just off Karen, just around the hub. He was arrested for not having a mask. And you cannot wear a mask when you're running. I mean, it's common sense. You cannot do that. You'll die. I mean, if corona does not kill you, then you'll die of suffocation. And this guy, instead of, when he told these guys, I want to be taken to court, these guys wanted a bribe. And these guys had masks in their cars. It was serious. They would have given this guy a mask and told him, put on this mask. They took him there. After they paid the bribe, that's when they gave him a mask. Some makeshift mask of sorts. So the corruption that's going on within the police service in terms of handling of this coronavirus or within government sectors is quite baffling. It's quite baffling. You'll be surprised also to hear what has been happening with the donations that came from China. I don't want to say that's
let's get some
figures
here.
So there's a lot. So the corruption in actually implementing the government directives is quite rife, and the government is not actually focused on implementing the rules, but ensuring that Mwananchi has even have a tougher life.
And according to this story in the People Daily, it's talking about also the police officers apparently taking advantage of the low level of education and awareness. Poor rural folk are now being charged by some unscrupulous officers between 2,000 and 5,000 for not wearing face masks. If this is true, Gerald, isn't this a sad situation, considering these are people in rural areas?
If someone in Nairobi, an elite, can be pushed to the wall and ask for money, you can only imagine what can happen to someone back in that country. In that country, going to jail is unheard of. It's quite it's something else. So if I'm told today that I'll go to court, I'd rather sell my chicken or sell my sheep to be able to secure my freedom. So this is happening, Glenn. I'll tell you that for free. It is real. There are things that are happening. I might not be sure about what they are asking from 5,000 and all that, but I know that people are being charged 1,000 shillings to be released for a mask issue. The government has not provided masks. The money that you're talking about, billions of money, you cannot ask me for a mask when you have not given me food. There's no stimulus package.
All right.
There is no provision of these basic requirements. So this is outrightly criminal, and actually the government should make a swift move.
And action should be taken. Well, Gerald Bitok, political strategist, thank you for making time. As always, it's a pleasure to have you on the Morning Cafe. Thank you for your time and have a good day, Gerald.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the best of the day.
All right. Well, this has been a look at the dailies, talking about different stories making headlines in the political scene, of course, all matters COVID-19 and much more. Right now, I want us to take a break. When we return, we take a look at some of the stories that made headlines yesterday and, of course, some that are indeed developing stories. So don't go too far. The Morning Cafe will be back shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe. Right now, we are having a look at some of the stories that made headlines yesterday. And of course, a majority of them are developing stories. Now, people above 60 years, caregivers and people at risk are advised to use the N95 protective mask, even as Kenya recorded the highest number of recoveries yesterday, with 97 people getting discharged in the last 24 hours. Marsabit County is the latest county to record a positive case of COVID-19, and the number of positive cases now stand at 2,862. 95 more people tested positive for coronavirus in the last 24 hours.
It is good news for COVID-19 patients as more recoveries are recorded in the country. On Monday, Kenya recorded the highest number of cases, with 97 more people getting discharged from hospital.
We are recording more and more recoveries from the disease, which is an indication that if the virus is detected early and proper care is availed, recovery is almost certain.
According to Health CAS Rashid Aman, the number of cases on Monday were low compared to the past few days due to lack of testing kits and a continued backlog of tests experienced in government facilities. He, however, warns the number of positive cases will continue to rise as the testing of more people is conducted.
The more positive cases that we will unearth, and the better off we will be in terms of containment and breaking the cycles of transmission.
In the last 24 hours, Kenya has recorded 95 more confirmed cases, bringing the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country to 2,862. Mombasa County had the highest number of cases at 56, Nairobi County 13, Busia County 10, Kajiado County 6, Kilifi County 3, whereas Kitui, Kwale, Garissa and Marsabit had 1 cases each. Marsabit County is the latest county to record a positive case of COVID-19, bringing the total number of counties with positive cases to 38 nationally. Aman further announced a directive by the World Health Organization that advises people above 60 years, caregivers and people at risk to use the N95 protective mask in order to guarantee them full protection from COVID-19.
Has issued new guidelines which require that people above 60 years, as well as those with underlying conditions, are advised to wear the N95 particulate masks at all times when in public places.
The death toll in the country now stands at 85 after 1 more patient succumbed to COVID-19. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union is calling upon the government to consider increasing the number of healthcare workers, even as the government plans to increase upscale COVID-19 isolation wards. And as Ali Logova reports, KMPDU is further urging the government to provide enough PPEs to healthcare workers as the number of healthcare workers contracting COVID-19 in line of duty continues to surge.
Addressing media Monday, KMPDU noted that a considerable number of healthcare workers have contracted the novel coronavirus in line of duty due to lack of PPEs. The Doctors Union now wants the government to provide the PPEs urgently.
A total of 81 healthcare workers across different areas in this country. And 60% of these healthcare worker infections are workplace related. That is in the quarantine centers and contact with COVID-19 patients in the hospitals. So the provision of PPEs is now a matter of utmost concern.
KMPDU further wants the government to employ more healthcare workers to meet the expansion of COVID-19 isolation wards as directed by President Uhuru Kenyatta on Saturday.
And so we appeal to the summit as it convenes to consider further budgetary allocations for the HRH component. And we acknowledge that so far 8,000 have been hired, but these projections that we have to ensure that there is quality and efficient service delivery in the isolation facilities is an additional 5,000.
Healthcare workers are the frontline soldiers in the battle against the highly contagious COVID-19. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
And Chief Justice David Maraga has lashed out at President Uhuru Kenyatta over what he terms as his continued disobedience of court orders. Maraga accused the president of undermining the law and expressed frustrations from the executive. And as Clifford Ndubi now reports, Maraga says he was unsuccessfully tried to secure an appointment with the President Uhuru Kenyatta to discuss the stalled appointment of 41 judges.
Another salvo from the Chief Justice David Maraga at President Uhuru Kenyatta. This time the more emboldened. He even accused the president of gross violation of the constitution after Uhuru failed to appoint 41 judges picked by the Judicial Service Commission last year.
The constitution does not donate any mandate to the president to perform any other act upon receipt of the names recommended by the chairs except to appoint them.
Maraga is now saying that the judiciary is grappling with a huge backlog in cases that he attributes to President Uhuru Kenyatta's refusal to employ new judges, sentiments echoed by the LSK President Nelson Havi.
The government of President Uhuru Kenyatta has been built on the foundation of disobedience of court orders.
If you file a land case in the Environment and Land Court at Milimani, Nairobi today, the earliest your case will be heard is in 2022.
The president of the Supreme Court, who is not new to confrontation with President Uhuru Kenyatta, now says that the state is avoiding him. Maraga, in a press conference in which he was not accompanied by other JSC members, said Uhuru Kenyatta has denied him audience on numerous occasions when he sought to resolve the matter of the 41 judges.
I have, for a long time now, unsuccessfully sought an appointment to discuss this issue with you, leaving me with no option but to raise the matter through this public statement.
The Chief Justice also accused the executive of failure to obey court orders on compensation of victims. He decries that the court decrees on those compensations have risen to about 1 billion shillings. Maraga's outburst came 4 days after President's executive order he also opposed, saying the judiciary cannot be run through an executive order. Uhuru's executive and the David Maraga-led judiciary have clashed many times, mainly in court judgments and judiciary budget cuts. Clifford Ndubi, TV47.
And while the bad blood between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Chief Justice David Maraga has continued to halt operations in the judiciary, with the Chief Justice saying the courts are at the brink of paralysis. The bad blood has persisted since the nullification of Uhuru's election in 2017, with Maraga leading his team in the nullification. And as Mwangi Minor reports, the Chief Justice paints the judiciary as a toothless dog at the mercies of the executive.
I, David Kenani Maraga, Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and the President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, do swear in the name of the Almighty.
October 19, 2016, and Chief Justice David Maraga takes oath of office as Kenya's second Chief Justice under the new constitution. His first assignment then was to swear in the IEBC selection panel that provided the team that oversaw the 2017 general elections. Elections that were later nullified by the Supreme Court under the leadership of David Maraga when he made the popular quote that the greatness of a nation lies in its fidelity to its constitution and strict adherence to the rule of law and above all the fear of God. This probably is what he's known for. Catchy quotes. This set the ground for a fierce supremacy battle between the judiciary and the executive, with the president clearly drawing the battle lines towards the repeat elections. Uhuru reminding Maraga and his team who he was. Every action was followed by a reaction. Maraga threatening to nullify the election a second time if proper procedures were not followed.
Interfere. And don't think that because our friends shout and we keep quiet, that we are scared of you. No, we are not. Maraga na watu yake hao wakora hao wamesema ati basi hiyo uchaguzi ipotee. Si ndivyo wamesema? Sasa mimi sana sio rais mtarajiwa. Mimi ni rais ambao amekalia kiti.
With his entry to the new office, President Kenyatta reminded Maraga to get used to criticism and be mindful on the decisions of judiciary on the other arms of the government. Maraga at one time lectured the president, telling him to play in his own league and leave the judiciary and the office of Chief Justice alone.
With the other officers of state, each should know where he is, and so that we have mutual respect and work with each other. I'm not going to back orders as the chief registrar because she's junior to me. I must respect her position.
Maraga took the head of state head-on matters budgetary cuts on the judiciary.
Abrupt budget cuts, which brought some of the functions of the judiciary to a grind, ground them to a halt. We discussed in the judiciary leadership, and I tried to reach the relevant officials. I make calls, Your Excellency, and the calls are not responded to.
When it seemed to cool down, President Kenyatta reached out to Maraga for talks, saying that Maraga was speaking to him through the media. In his comeback in November 2019, the Chief Justice met yet another public outburst, accusing President Kenyatta for attempts to control the judiciary. Maraga said it was becoming hard for him to access the president, and the respect that came with his office was disregarded to the extent of failing to get recognition in state functions. Maraga said the judiciary had become a punching bag for the executive. 4 days ago, Maraga issued a statement rubbishing President Kenyatta's Executive Order No. 2 of 2020, which put independent commissions such as the JSC under the office of the Attorney General. In his statement, Maraga said the judiciary cannot be controlled by executive orders. And on Monday, in yet another, Maraga set the podium for another knockout between him and President Kenyatta. This time, Maraga accusing the president for failure to appoint 41 judges, disobedience to court orders, and Maraga's restraint access to State House. To him, he is a guest of the state. With 6 months remaining to the end of his tenure to the helm of the judiciary, Chief Justice David Maraga leaves the institution with a backlog of thousands of cases he had promised to clear on his swearing in, and ultimately as a public officer who lectured the president on different occasions. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
And now the Jubilee Party National Executive Committee will now determine the fate of Majority Leader Aden Duale. The committee has already been handed over 126 signatures of members of parliament supporting his ouster. Meanwhile, Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria has accepted his recent removal as Vice Chairperson of the Transport Committee in the National Assembly.
According to the party's National Assembly Chief Whip, Emmanuel Wangwe, the party has already received at least 126 signatures of MPs supporting the ouster of National Assembly's Majority Leader Aden Duale.
The list that signed, that Honorable Kanini Keka forwarded, in the first place, the procedure has been followed. The procedure required is that whoever has an issue writes to the whip, and the whip is not part of the whoever is writing. It gets to me, and in accompaniment is the list of the members who have signed to indicate as to why they want the meeting to be convened. So the list is there.
Wangwe says the party will consider the signatures before making a decision. The party's deputy whip, Mau Kamaure, says the action is out of President Uhuru Kenyatta's keeping Duale's name and role during Jubilee Parliamentary Group meeting held at State House recently.
We have received the signatures, 126 of them, which we have forwarded to the party leader, just asking that clarification by saying that we wish to propose the removal of the leader of majority.
Meanwhile, Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria has accepted his recent removal as Vice Chairperson of the Transport Committee in the National Assembly by Jubilee Party. Kuria says has no regrets over his time of service at the committee. This comes even as section of Jubilee MPs allied to Deputy President William Ruto have been claiming the ongoing purge is targeting them.
Hii maneno ya kutishana kila siku tuwache. Wakati tulisema ile siku ingine ya kwamba wanapanga kuua naibu wa rais, hawakuchukua hatua yoyote. Wakakuja hapo katikati na maneno ya corruption. Hiyo tuwakubalia waendelee naye. Wamekuja na mambo mingi mpaka imefika sasa wakati wanataka kuwa mwananchi kupata.
They say it's not over until it's over, and now next in the Jubilee chopping board might be the National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale. Elizabeth Muchuku, TV47, Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
And while Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula has been replaced by Wafula Wamunyinyi as Ford Kenya party leader, the Registrar of Political Parties, Anne Nderitu, has yesterday morning, gazetted the changes days after leadership wrangles within the party. However, Wetangula has dismissed the changes, claiming he is still the party leader of Kenya's second oldest political party.
The Registrar of Political Parties, Anne Nderitu, gazetted the changes days after leadership wrangles within the party. The Registrar, however, says anyone with written submissions concerning the intended changes by the party has 7 days to submit. The notice dated June 8th also indicated the replacement of National Organizing Secretary Chris Mandu with Josephine Maungu. However, Wetangula, who spent the better part of the day at the offices of the Registrar of Political Parties, has dismissed the changes, claiming he is still the party leader.
We don't want to preempt the decision the Registrar is going to make, but we believe and we have no doubt that we are legitimately in office, we shall legitimately remain in office, and we are going to go the whole hog.
Meanwhile, a section of Ford Kenya delegates in Bungoma County celebrated the Oster, terming it as a step to save the party.
Moses Masika Wetangula has served us well. His term has ended, ana makosa yake. Na sisi tumesema aenda akae salama popote anaenda na support leadership ambayo iko. Ile leadership ambayo iko itatupeleka next canon ambapo kwa tutafika.
Wetangula has been accused of gross misconduct by the faction led by Wafula Wamunyinyi. Yes. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
And well, that story brings us to a short break. Remember to stay tuned. When we return, we look at all matters business, where you can invest and what business models may be working at this moment that you can possibly pursue. Of course, we have much more later in the show talking about skincare, and you may want to remain watching and staying with us, keeping us company throughout the morning cafe today. Well, right now, let's take a short break. When we return, we have all that I've mentioned for you. So stay tuned and don't go too far.
These are very unique times we find ourselves in as a nation. We have never been in this on this road before, but we believe that it provides us with a great opportunity as Kenyans, as a people, especially as a religious community, to help everybody look up to God.
I think
the things that are happening are not unusual and are not unknown to God, but it is how we respond to them that will make a difference.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe. Right here is where we have an in-depth discussion with analysts just highlighting various stories and issues that affect you directly or indirectly. And with me in studio is Steve Biko, who is a research analyst. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good to see you. A lot happening, especially during COVID-19, Steve. Talking about retrenchment, many people have lost jobs. Some people feel the retrenchment process has been unfair. So the question is, Steve, as we begin, is there responsible retrenchment?
I think, as you've put it correctly, there's a lot that is happening. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of a very serious crisis, which happened to have come in the middle of an economy that was actually struggling to survive. So one would ask, what is responsible retrenchment? Because at the end of the day, businesses are trying to survive. At the end of the day, few people will understand what it means to run a business. And running a small kiosk whereby the owner is the only employee, and running a hotel chain where you have 3,000 employees is actually very different. So the need for responsible retrenchment would mean whereby all parties are involved. We're looking at the Ministry of Labour, we're looking at KOTU, the representatives of workers, we're looking at the employees themselves, we're looking at the legal fraternity. So this is the only way to actually have something that will be responsible. But unfortunately, given the state of affairs, whereby we've been working from home or sitting at home for the last 3 months, it's quite unfortunate because by the time we actually recover, we'll be looking at, because I mean, this country is actually run on an informal sector where 88% of the jobs come from. And given what's been happening and given what's been reported, I think there's a lot of data that's actually missing so that we can be able to make an informed decision on what responsible retrenchment is. But for me, I think everyone is just simply trying to survive. Owners of the businesses are trying to survive. And we need to understand that at the end of the day, the reason why one has a business is to make profits. So when the business is not making profits and you're digging into your own pocket to survive, then the only responsible thing is to shut it down. So when the question of what is responsible actually is being asked, then the issue of what is our government doing, the issue for access to credit, the issue of all the relevant stakeholders who actually manage a particular sector needs to actually be looked into from a wider perspective.
And Steve, you are a research analyst, and I know you've come across data. You've mentioned some of that data is not sufficient because we still don't know the actual status as far as people working in the informal sector. But for the much knowledge that you have as it is right now, and you've mentioned that all parties must be involved as far as retrenchment is concerned, would you say this has been the case for many of the Kenyans who have lost their jobs?
Unfortunately, it's not been the case. I've not seen KOTU actually taking a firm stand against what's been happening. I've not seen the Federation of Kenyan Employers actually coming together and saying, trying to outline the framework on what's happening and what has been done to be able to seek support from relevant government agencies before any retrenchment is done. All we've seen is a couple of hotels announcing publicly that they've fired permanently their workers. There's been an outcry on social media platforms, and then 2 days later we see the president pledging a couple of billions support for that particular sector. But you see a lot of sectors are suffering. We're looking at manufacturing, we're looking at construction, we're looking at agriculture, we're looking at agro-processing, we're looking at the service sector, we're looking at logistics. Especially logistics has really suffered a lot because we're seeing a lot of policy changes that's affecting the transport sector, and no one is actually coming to the aid of the workers there. And unfortunately, I would expect KOTU to be at the forefront in terms of fighting for the rights of workers, but we seem to see that our attention seems to be focusing on politics. And the biggest challenge that I've seen many SMEs and many employers facing is a lack of access to credit, meaning that they're not able to finance their businesses. And ultimately, this means that most of them have to shut down. And because there's no proper coordination with the relevant stakeholders, we've seen Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we've seen KEPSA trying to issue a couple of statements, but they've not really gone a step further and brought all the stakeholders on the table and seen what is the way forward. Because I would expect a forum that's actually led by KEPSA, KOTU, FKE, to try and see how best they can be able to work with the commercial sector, the banking, the financial services sector, to try and see how best it will be to seek a fund that can actually be able to be used to secure a guarantee for the SME sector, so that those people with at least say 5+ employees can be able to get access to credit and be able to survive. Because full data will actually be available at the end of June, at the end of June, July. Then you can be able to tell the extent to the damage that the economy has actually felt.
Steve, we'll come back to the SMEs, but I think it's good to help our audience understand. According to law, tell us exactly what the law states as far as retrenchment is concerned. What is justified and what is not justified as far as retrenchment is concerned, and that's according to the law.
Normally, when it comes to employment, it's based on a contract between the employer and the employee. So the contractual obligations between the two parties need to be followed to the full extent of the applicable laws in Kenya. The interesting bit is that given that our economy is actually mostly an informal aspect, you realize that most contractual obligations are word of mouth between the employer and the employee. So when things become thick, the employer will simply say, I've shut down the office, there's no work. And ultimately, there's nothing the employee can be able to do. But if there is a written contract that will stipulate how one will lose their job. For example, now, if I'm employed by X employer, then that will mean that when they're terminating my services, they'll have to follow the stipulated law. There are terms and conditions that will actually allow them to fire me. And in this case, assuming given how the economy is, there's no business, then that will mean if I'm fired, I'm given 1 month severance pay and maybe my pension. And unfortunately, this is not being followed. Unfortunately, given the financial situation most Kenyans are, most of us are simply accepting our fate and trying to survive, because you're trying to fight for something, and to actually get legal redress will mean you need to have money, and most of us don't have the money to actually even fight for our own rights. And this is why I was saying that Federation of Kenya Employers and KOTU and KAM and KEPSA need to sit down together and actually analyze the correct data that's actually coming out from the labor market and see what is the best way forward.
All right, let's take a look at the employment crisis further. Steve, even as we talk about retrenchment, and really happy that you have actually mentioned some of the avenues that Kenyans can use to get redress in case they feel they have been ill-treated by their employer. I think the question here is just now about the Kenyan employment crisis. We know at least 1 million Kenyans, Steve, have lost their jobs or have been put on indefinite halt according to in terms of their services. WASIT companies, Steve, talk about tourism, transport, horticulture, communication and education. But when you look at the crisis right now, what would you say the impact is on the livelihoods of Kenyans?
First and foremost, I think it's more than 1 million Kenyans who've lost their jobs because, as I've said, complete data is not yet out. So I think until at the end of the month, then you can be able to tell how the data will be looking like towards the end of the year. Secondly,
so we are saying that the 1 million might actually be more than 1 million?
I think it's more because what we're seeing is just the reported cases of formal employment. What about the informal sector? And this is a sector that doesn't really mesh well with the media. So there's a lot of data that's actually not being reported. So the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics needs to actually release the correct data. And I think we're only focusing on few sectors that have had the spotlight of the government. We're looking at the hospitality, we're looking at tourism, we're looking at logistics, and we're looking at the listed firms on the stock exchange. So for me, I think the impact of the retrenchment is going to actually be very critical, and it's going to be a crisis, because at the end of the day, we need to look at the numbers of how many Kenyans are unable to pay their rent, how many Kenyans are unable to buy food, or at least even have 2 meals a day, how many Kenyans are unable to go to work, how many Kenyans are actually walking from home to work, how many Kenyans have relocated from the urban centers to the rural centers, because there is information that many Kenyans are waiting for the lockdown, for the cessation of movement in Nairobi to be lifted so they can relocate to the up country whereby it's easier to survive. So we are seeing a crisis whereby people are living hand to mouth. We are seeing information coming from the health sector that hospitals are actually struggling to survive because people are not going to hospitals. And I know the health sector is actually critical at the moment, but if hospitals are reporting empty beds, that means a bigger problem. And if we're looking at the hospitality and entertainment sector, which is actually on a complete shutdown, and majority of Kenyans actually depend on entertainment and hospitality, so it's a critical crisis. And I think government is actually being reluctant to actually release the correct information because it's also monitoring the situation and doing its best. But unfortunately, and unless all the parties come together and sit down and actually analyze, because we cannot be able to make the correct policy, we cannot be able to come up with the correct remedy if we do not have the correct information to be able to diagnose the problem and be able to see what is the best way forward.
Steve, considering that we already had an employment crisis in the country as far as especially the youth bracket is concerned, now we're seeing an even worse situation in the country. You've mentioned this number might even be more than 1 million Kenyans. How does this impact on the growth of the economy of Kenya?
Central Bank 2 weeks ago alluded to the growth for the rest of the year actually being at 2.3%. And for me, I think this is actually very ambitious because when you look at the macro aspect of the economy, the key sectors that actually drive the economy, you're looking at tourism, which is actually completely dead because travel...
Would you really say it's completely dead?
Yeah, because one, there are no tourists coming in. I mean, the global economy is on a shutdown.
But how about local tourism?
As far as global tourism is actually concerned. Local tourism is dead because we cannot travel from here to Mombasa, we cannot travel from here to Naivasha. And if we're looking at local tourism in terms of just Nairobi alone, many of us don't have the money to even go to the national parks. If you're looking at manufacturing, we look at the PMI of the manufacturing sector, it's actually dropped from 51% towards the end of last quarter to 34% as of first quarter of this year. And I think this has dropped further. If we're looking at the transport and logistics sector, given the amorphous policy that are actually being made by the transport sector in terms of movement of containers from Mombasa to Naivasha, given the COVID and the cholera outbreak in the country. If you're looking at agriculture, we've been facing the issue of locusts, floods, COVID. If you look at the issue of access to credit, so all this are actually impacting the economy. And if nothing is done, we'll be looking at a recession. Because for me, I think the economy is actually growing at 1%, and this 1% is just basically recurrent expenditure by the government only. Other than that, no one else is investing. No one else is making any moves because everyone else is just waiting to see what is actually going to happen, or rather what's going to happen before they can be able to make a move. So in terms of growth, we're staring at a recession unless something's happened. And this week is actually very important for Kenya and the rest of the East African countries because we're looking at the budget allocations to critical sectors of the economy to see whether we're focusing on post-COVID recovery, we're looking at jump-starting the economy, or we're just looking at paying salaries and being able to survive.
And even talking about the budget allocation that will be announced on Thursday, Steve, I know you've mentioned quite some critical sectors here. You've talked about transport sector, tourism sector, agriculture sector. And looking at what to expect as far as the budget reading is concerned on Thursday, what areas do you think, as a research analyst, should be given prominence as far as budgetary allocation is concerned?
Given what's happening from a global perspective and what was happening to the country before the COVID pandemic, I think for me, key areas that need to be looked at is first we need to ensure that our healthcare sector can be able to handle a surge in infections. And we've seen the Ministry of Health actually saying that focus needs to move to the counties so that they're actually well prepared to handle the rising cases of infections. So for me, one, healthcare is actually very important to ensure that our infrastructure can be able to handle surge in infections. Two, we need to look at post-COVID recovery. And for me, the economy is actually very critical. So we're looking at agriculture. They need to be more focused on agriculture. They need to be more focused on the banking and in financial services sector, because access to credit is actually going to be very important. We need to look at security of the country, and mostly internal security of the country. When you look at what's happening in the transport sector, for example, with the logistics, with the inter-East African trade, there's a bigger problem there where we're seeing truck drivers actually going on strike, complaining about what's been happening in terms of management of the COVID issue. So transport, internal security, agriculture, banking sector because of access to credit, manufacturing is actually very important, because 3 weeks ago the country was actually running low on critical products. And given the fact that our global trade has actually slowed down because of our restrictions on travel, so we need to look at how we can be able to have local solutions to production. We need to look at the import-export balance and see how best can we really boost local manufacturing, agro-processing. But looking at the budget estimates, I'm a bit disappointed with how the government of Kenya is actually looking, because we've seen Minister of Defense being allocated 115 billion. Compared to Minister of Health being given 111 billion. For me, I would think Ministry of Health will actually receive a huge percentage of the budget estimates above anything else. And not to forget what's going to happen in terms of education, because currently it's on a standstill, and there are a lot of research modules actually being carried out to see when is the best time to actually reopen schools. If we're to look at what's happening globally, France, Singapore, Taiwan, they did open the education system and shut them a week later. So also focus on that is actually going to be critical. But in terms of top 5, I look at health, number 1. I look at agriculture, number 2. I look at transport, number 3. Then I look at internal security at number 4. Then tourism is actually very important, and I think for now we need to forget about global tourism and focus on internal tourism, domestic. And I'm talking about pushing the country to look at the North Rift, pushing the country to look at the Western Circuit, pushing the country to look at other aspects just beyond Naivasha and Mombasa.
You know, Steve, you alluded to my next question, talking about the previous budgetary allocations in the past. You've mentioned the issue of health, you've talked about security. What do you feel about the government's priorities as far as budgetary allocation is concerned, what we have seen in previous budget reading, and hopefully what will probably be improved in the coming budget reading?
The budget estimates for this year, 2020-2021, are 2.7. If we look at the previous year, in 2019-2020 was, I think, 3.3. So given what the global economy is going through, given what the local economy is going through, 2.7 trillion budget is actually very ambitious and very unrealistic, because one, KRA is going to have a very big problem collecting any taxes. If what's happening on the listed firms have actually been issuing profit warnings. We've seen a lot of other top 100 SMEs listing announcing closure, announcing firing. So in terms of a target set by KRA, it's actually going to be very difficult to be able to meet the budget estimates. Secondly, the economy is actually growing at 1% and we're staring at a recession. So I don't know how we're going to be able to meet these budget estimates. Three, for me, I think what the National Treasury is just going to do is to collect money so that one, they pay salaries, and two, pay debts. So anything else is actually going to be put on hold. So for me, I think the government is not being realistic. This is the time to be realistic. I believe we've got very brilliant brains at National Treasury, and I'm still waiting to see the explanations behind the estimates, because I think they're too ambitious, they're too unrealistic. And I think we are flogging a dead horse. You see, if the informal sector has no access to credit, if the top, say, 1,000 SMEs have got no access to credit, if support of the government COVID measures are only targeting selected sectors, then it's not going to be fair, and it's going to be very difficult to survive. And I think once more data has come out and you've been able to analyze it, you'll realize that the nightmare of a recession is actually here, and we seem to realize that our focus of our politicians, Parliament, the Senate, and the Executive is actually focusing on political reforms instead of an economic reform aspect.
Well, Steve, moving away from that, still on matters business, of course, what do you feel about the role of development finance institutions, especially in the wake of COVID-19?
I think Kenya is touted as the financial hub of the region. We're looking at Eastern and Central Africa. This means that our financial sectors, the banking and financial sector is actually very critical to this. We've seen the Kenyan government borrow heavily from the commercial banks, so we know the critical role they play. And the unfortunate bit is the impetus as far as trying to come up with measures to mitigate the impact of the COVID pandemic, and also to come up with policy measures for post-COVID recovery have not really been felt. We've seen banks issue statements on what they think should be done about the issue of ensuring that our pending bills are settled immediately, to be able to ensure that there's liquidity in the economy. Other than that, nothing else has actually been felt from them. For me, I think there need to be more collaboration between the banking sector, the financial sector, and I'm looking at banks, I'm looking at mobile money loans, I'm looking at central bank, I'm looking at Capital Markets Authority, I'm looking at the Insurance Regulatory Authority, I'm looking at the retirement benefits, and especially on the Retirement Benefits Authority, we've seen the pension sector coming actually under serious attack, because now with the challenges the economy is facing, pensioners are actually not getting their pension on time. So there is more need to collaborate between the government and the financial sector, and especially the leading banking sector, because we've seen innovation from them that can actually be able to help the sector grow. We've seen the telecom sector actually also play a key role in terms of innovating products and services that are actually seeing the growth of the commercial and the banking sector. But lack of partnership, lack of honesty, lack of transparency has seen a slow collaboration in the sector, and this is a problem because the informal sector is actually depending on this. The informal sector in the country, in East Africa, and in the larger aspect of Africa depend on them.
All right. Well, Steve, even as we talk about the collaboration, the issue of lockdowns, the impact it has had on the supply chain, disrupting the supply chains in the country, of course beyond, and also resulting in a tightening of consumer spending as a result. If these lockdowns persist, what does this mean for the supply chains?
First and foremost, I expected the president to actually be able to tell us the consequences of the last 3 months of a lockdown, whether it's worked or not, whether it's been good for the economy, bad for the economy, what are the numbers. Secondly, I expected him to tell us that since he's added another 30 days in terms of looking critical aspects, because 60% of the country's gross domestic product is actually in Nairobi. So when you shut down Nairobi, then you shut down Mombasa, you're shutting down at least 80% of the gross domestic product aspect in terms of the economy. So we're looking at 20% of the economy is actually functional. So in terms of our consumer spending, in terms of production, in terms of local tourism, in terms of logistics, we are at a standstill. We are putting at risk a lot more if our decisions are not based on scientific research data that's actually been analyzed. I expected KEMRI, Ministry of Health, other financial think tanks like the East African Institute of Finance to actually come out with more data explaining to us the ramifications of the current lockdown measures that we've had, the current curfew measures that we've had, because now, we're back to basically working full time. We're being told that our health care facilities are actually full, that are supposed to be taking care of the infections for the pandemic. We know the manufacturing sector has been functioning at its lowest ever. We know agriculture is actually on standstill because before the COVID we had the locust invasion, then we had floods, and floods actually did destroy almost everything. I'm a farmer, and I can tell you that our produce for this year has actually been destroyed, so we're not going to harvest anything, not to mention the COVID pandemic. Given the truck driver strike on the Malaba border coming all the way to Lwandeti near Tarbo, the possibility of a cholera outbreak. So it's a hot mess in terms of what is the way forward. And for me, I think going forward, unless these measures are reviewed, and the president was very categorical, he did call for urgent meetings between relevant stakeholders by this week to be able to see what's going to happen in terms of opening up the local airspace, in terms of opening up local travel, in terms of more measures opening up the hospitality, trying to see the 2 billion relief fund for the hospitality sector. And unfortunately for me, I expected Parliament to be more to be in session, to be focusing and monitoring this situation on a day-to-day basis. But we see Parliament and the Senate playing politics, ignoring the other fundamental aspects, because right now the focus should be on the health aspect of Kenyan people and the economic situation.
Well, Steve, I want us to look further into especially the impact that lockdowns and the curfew has had on businesses. And when we return after this short break, Steve, I want us to go into the impact of the ease of the nationwide curfew. Of course, you've mentioned that business seems to be back to normal, but what does it mean for businesses, and how can they take advantage of the new developments as far as the nationwide curfew is concerned? So right now, the morning cafe will indeed take a short break. When we return, we'll take a look at that particular matter and, of course, understanding where to invest, especially during COVID-19. So don't go too far. The morning cafe will be back shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe. Today it's all about business, helping you understand all matters business and how, of course, you can invest right now and how you can help your business recover. And today we are talking to Steve Biko, who is with us in studio. He is a research analyst. Steve, before we took a break, we were talking about the lockdown, the curfew, and the impact it has had on businesses. But now we're talking about an ease on the nationwide curfew. What impact do you think this can have on businesses in the country?
The one thing I did appreciate about the president's last address is he did talk about the measures to be taken in terms of easing the economy back into full throttle. And he did say that if we reduced the current restrictions by, say, 20%, then he did give the indication of how many infections we'd have and how many deaths by the end of the year. So for me, I think we cannot just, we've been locked down since the 4th month, and we can just simply say, now we need to ease up and go back to normal life. It's not going to work like that. COVID-19 is not, it's not a myth, it's a reality. And I think the problem with us Kenyans is unless something actually directly affects you, we don't really take it seriously. But I would like to tell Kenyans it's actually very serious. And for me, I think I would like to support the president on using a scientific approach in terms of easing back into normalcy. And I think what we knew about life, how normal it was then, is not going to be normal anymore. We're going to adapt to a new normal. We're going to adapt to a new normal, but we constantly have to wash our hands, constantly have to wear masks, constantly have to social distance. Handshakes, hugs are going to be probably a thing of the past until when we can have either vaccine or a control over the virus. But in terms of businesses, it's going to be challenging because the issue of how the health guidelines that the Ministry of Health is going to come up with in terms of ensuring that for us to open back, for example, let's say Marigiti Market or Chwele Market or any other market, food, or Sokomjinga, for example. What are the health guidelines that are going to be put in place to ensure that for this market to be open, then these are the things that are going to be put in. It's going to be very difficult because we know one of the key guidelines of social distance is going to be actually a big challenge. Wearing masks, masks are not cheap. You can't wear one mask forever, so you have to keep changing them. The issue of running water is a challenge. The issue of sanitizers is a challenge. So I think before we can open the economy back, we need to address the availability of water, the availability of sanitizers and soap, the availability of how we're going to ensure that our social distance guidelines are actually being met and being enforced, because we're going to see a spike in infections if this is not done. And this is now the biggest headache that the government is facing in terms of opening back. But I'm just looking at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of the economy. When you're looking at middle class and upper class, enforcing this will actually can be easier because there'll be availability of resources. And you've seen with the change of curfew hours from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., we've seen people now, working full-time, 8 to 5. And the challenge now is, are we wearing masks? Are we washing our hands? Are we sanitizing our hands? And this is a challenge because for me, I think before any business, whether it's in informal sector or it's a listed firm on the stock exchange, can reopen, I think we need to use scientific data that's supposed to be released by Minister of Health, courtesy of KEMRI. And this is something that I would urge the government to actually focus on. Be able to give us the numbers, be able to tell us what is happening. I know there's a challenge in terms of testing and sustaining the number of testing. We were maintaining a number of 3,000 per day. Yesterday, the numbers coming out were 1,090. This is actually a significant drop. And one of the reasons given is that there's low supply of the reagents in terms of testing. So we are facing a lot of challenges in terms of managing the pandemic, in terms of managing the information that is coming out.
Steve, when you look at what the government is doing, of course, we've been on a lockdown in some of the counties. We're talking about a nationwide curfew. Perhaps, do you think maybe the government is just trying to ease off the current status gradually so that also the current, curfew and lockdown does not end up crippling the economy further?
I think what the government is trying to do is, first and foremost, let's admit that managing the pandemic has been very difficult. And depending on which political side you are on, you'll be able to look at how the president has been able to manage. For me, I think there's more that should have been done. There's more that can be done. And I think what the government is trying to do is basically not overwhelm the healthcare system, nothing else. And two, I think they're trying to see if the communities, we look at the counties. Now we have 30 counties that have been able to report cases of COVID. So I think the government is trying to see if we can use what you call what the doctors are saying herd immunity, whereby you lock down people in a particular community, let them interact, let them be together, they build up immunity to the virus. And I think that's what the government is trying to do, so that we do not overwhelm the healthcare system. Because when you look at the numbers of preparedness across the counties, it's actually very disappointing. There's been a fight between the devolution administrative units versus the national government in terms of release of funds to create preparedness. We look at, for example, counties like Siaya, counties like Bungoma, counties like Kisumu, in terms of how many beds for isolation for COVID they have. It's actually very disappointing. Busia has 30 beds. They're all full. We've reported over 200 cases from Busia. So where are these cases going to? We've seen people actually being held, who are sick, being held at testing centers. So it's actually imperative that the government does more, and I think what the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Interior and Coordination are doing is to be able to implement measures that will not be able to cripple the healthcare system, and this is actually where the key focus is.
Listening to you, it feels like you do not believe that the easing off of the nationwide curfew is towards helping businesses, try and get a way to recover, because for some they feel this might be an attempt by the government to try and resuscitate the economy. Isn't this the case, Steve?
For me, I don't think there's anything that's being done to help the informal sector get back to business, because 3 weeks ago key hotels in this country actually fired more than 3,000 people. There was a huge cry on social media platforms. We saw the government writing to them and asking for an explanation. 2 weeks later, we see the president pledging 2 billion in terms of support. But what about the informal sector that actually employs 80% of the country's population? Who's going to support them? Yeah, if we've been forced to stay at home for 3 months, your business has been shut down, your landlord has kicked you out, you've moved 3 houses, you're actually relocating from an urban center to a rural aspect, and there's no access to credit. The care is on your case demanding for you to pay taxes. From what money? So I don't think the government is actually doing enough to ensure that we get back to our feet. I don't think the government is doing enough to ensure that the key aspect of the economy, agriculture, the informal sector, the SME aspect, they have access to credit. For me, the only thing that the government is focusing on is to ensure that the healthcare system is not overwhelmed. Because the moment we overwhelm the healthcare system, then we're going to cripple the country. And a sick nation is not a good indication on this government. But the unfortunate bit is a lot of more resources actually being driven towards politics instead of towards business. I've not seen the Kenya Bankers Association actually coming together and saying, no, you know what, we've created a guarantee bank for the critical number of SMEs to be able to access this money, to be able to reopen. You see, the hospitality sector is actually important, but it's not the only sector that actually manages this country. Yeah, we're looking at agriculture, we're looking at the services sector, we're looking at the transport sector. If you take a walk around Nairobi, most people who do logistics, courier services, they've shut down. Their buses, their trucks, their lorries, they're just at the backing spot, waiting for the country to reopen. And the unfortunate bit is that we are all afraid. As we ease measures to go back to normalcy, we see infections spiking up, and we're being told, the key management centers, Kenyatta University Hospital, Kenyatta Hospital, Nairobi Hospital, Aga Khan Hospital, Mbagathi Hospital, they're all actually full in terms of isolation, in terms of management of the virus. So what next? So there's a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot more information that needs to be channeled out.
Well, Steve, given what you've said, but shedding some bit of hope and light in relation to the easing of the nationwide curfew, do you think there's something businesses or entrepreneurs can do right now to somewhat try and recover the losses, especially maybe capitalizing on the easing of the nationwide curfew? Is there a possibility that this can happen?
I'm not pessimistic. I think Kenyans are a resilient lot, and there's a lot that's actually being done. We've seen the private sector actually coming out to do a lot more in terms of supporting the less vulnerable. We've seen the Indian community, we've seen KEPSA, CAM coming together. We've seen a lot of support being given to Red Cross. And I know from the last address of the president, I know we are back to normal business operations. Business are opening. Yesterday I took a tour around Nairobi to see just what's happening around in terms of business. I see Marigiti is trying to clean up, fumigate the market. We've seen business parks, business office suites opening up. We've seen key hotels that actually fired people, recalling the people back and saying, you know what, back to normalcy. We've seen restaurants trying to reopen. We've seen transport managers actually saying that they're trying to see what they can be able to do. So there is a back to business. The challenge is, as I've said over and above, is access to credit. And what the government can do for us is bring together the banking sector and the financial sector and see what fund they can be able to create for us to be able to access, so we can get back to normal business. Because having closed business for more than 3 months and then you reopen back, you're trying to see how many employees do you need, how many employees do you need to let go. And also I think KRA needs to be able to be a bit more understanding. I know the role is statutory and is set in law, but they need to understand that we've been on a standstill for 3 months, so they need to also be able to understand the nature of how the economy is rolling back. You know, it's like a car. When your car's been idle for 3 months, when you try and restart it, you're looking at how much oil it is, whether the oil has become fermented or not, whether the fuel lines are okay or they need to be cleaned. You need to look at whether the brakes are functioning or not. So there's a lot more to be done. And also we need to look at what other countries are doing. We've seen South Africa had measures of restrictions from level 5 to level 4 to level 3. That is something that I didn't see in Kenya. We've seen what Italy is doing. They had a very worst case scenario, but they're also easing back into operations. Countries like the Swiss never really closed down. But given how the global economy is performing, most countries are going to recession. Most countries actually are trying to see how key companies can actually have access to credit so that they don't shut down. We've seen many companies, listed firms in the country, issuing profit warnings. And this is something that we need to look at. We need to look at companies like Mumias that are not trading anymore in the stock market. KQ been seeking support bailout from the government. So we also need to look at how best we can be able to look at the key aspects of the economy that are actually imperative to move. Because if agriculture is not moving, if manufacturing is not moving, then dependent sectors like transport and service and security will not be able to function. So the government needs to look at what are the core aspects, tier 1 aspect of the economy that needs to move fast before tier 2, tier 3 can be able to be supported.
All right. Well, let's move away from the nationwide curfew, Steve, and move on to investing during COVID-19. We know that some businesses have closed because they're not able to finance their expenses. And we know people have lost jobs, some are at home trying to figure out what next. So is there a possibility that there are places or certain businesses one can invest in during COVID-19 that can be, well, you could say hopefully lucrative for them?
Well, great wealth is made during a crisis. And if anyone had money, this is the perfect time to invest. There are a lot of opportunities to invest across the economy. The stock market presents the easiest low-hanging fruits in terms of investment. There are good listed firms that one can actually be able to invest in. We're looking at Safaricom, we're looking at the financial sector, we're looking at the listed firms from banking sector, we're looking at manufacturing, we're looking at construction. Other sectors that actually present opportunities for investment is logistics, courier services, agriculture, agro-processing. I think COVID has actually been able to, what you call an acid test to an economy. For the longest time, we've been an import country. And given the lockdown in terms of air travel, many Kenya business people and entrepreneurs have not been able to travel. So this has actually made us look inward. How do we produce our own products to be able to sell locally? So there are a lot of opportunities. Manufacturing sectors present a lot of opportunities. Agriculture sector, value add. We export a lot of raw materials to import back our finished products. So I think going forward, we need to see how best we can be able to do value addition. Who knew we could be able to produce masks in Kitui? Who knew we can be able to develop and manufacture ventilators in the country? So there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of hanging fruits. The only challenge that we have as a country is access to credit. And I think this is something that I would like to urge advisors to the president to be able to look at. If we can only be able to sort out how we can be able to access credit, give us tax incentives and tax breaks, then I think we can do what you call an industrial revolution that actually has been in the offing for the longest time. You cannot talk about buy Africa, build Africa, or buy Kenya, build Kenya, if we don't focus on manufacturing and agriculture. And there are a lot of opportunities there.
And looking at the impact of COVID-19, just last week I was talking to an analyst, Steve, and he talked about the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector have been greatly affected. So how then can someone invest there right now, considering the impediments that are facing the sectors?
One, there are three great challenges that the agricultural sector has been facing. One, farmers have not had access to credit. Two, the locust invasion that has not been able to be solved. And then three, floods. Out of these three, right now, we're staring at a food security aspect. The agriculture and agro-processing sector correlate to the retail aspect. If you go to a supermarket, if you go to a mama mboga, you realize that the price of basic commodities actually gone up because the produce are actually becoming less and less and less. Now that floods are over, now that rains have normalized, then it's actually a perfect opportunity for someone to get back into farming. Onions, tomatoes, grain, sugar, greens. It's actually a good opportunity for now. And I think what someone needs to do is look at irrigated kind of farming. Second, those who have access to capital and can be able to loan farmers to be able to do this. So access to credit. So we're looking at if the financial sector can actually be able to come up with financial products that target farmers, will actually be very important. Right now, we pride ourselves as being a country that actually looks at innovative products. We can have mobile financial products that target farmers. It will actually be very important. I have a friend who's a big farmer in Western Kenya, who's looking at over 200,000 acres of maize and sugarcane. And his biggest challenge has been access to credit. But if he can be able to get access to credit, to be able to pay the daily wages to his people, to his workers, then it can actually be important. So for me, I think there's blood in the market, there's blood on the streets, and when there's blood on the streets, it's actually a great opportunity for people to be able to invest.
Well, Steve, we have a question here on Twitter from an account here calling itself Soko Analyst. And the question here is, Ministry of Defense has been allocated 115 billion, 4 billion more than the Ministry of Health, as Government of Kenya unveils a 2.7 trillion unrealistic budget, according to this gentleman. So the question for him, to you, is what do you think is the way forward?
I think, and I mentioned it, I think I said focus for this budget should have been on two issues. One, how do you prop up the healthcare so that it doesn't suffer a cripple because of the surge in infections? And two, post-COVID recovery of focusing on agriculture, manufacturing, and local tourism, and access to credit for SMEs. Those 5 issues should be top 5 in terms of this budget. But when you give a Ministry of Defense more money than Ministry of Health, I mean, honestly, the COVID virus is not an external enemy, it's an internal enemy. It's an enemy that cannot be fought by guns and airships and things like that. So I think for now we need to redirect our resources to what is more critical. But I'm waiting for Parliament, who are our representatives, to be able to see what they'll be able to do. I had one of the members of Parliament talking about saying that this is a very ambitious budget estimate, and they're waiting for Parliament on Thursday to be able to debate it and see how they can be able to handle it.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve Biko, for making time
pleasure.
for us. Steve Biko, research analyst. We appreciate your thoughts and your wealth of knowledge towards today's discussion. Thank you for making time.
Thank you very much.
And well, that has been a look at the world of business with research analyst Steve Biko helping us understand all matters budgetary allocation coming forth on Thursday. And of course, all matters business and how businesses can survive, the sectors that have been affected. And of course, as you've heard, it's not all gloom, there's a bit of hope. And I just want us to sample some of the comments coming from some of you online. We have here Dennis Aunga. This is in relation to the newspaper review we did earlier on. We highlighted a couple of stories there about corruption related to some of the former government officials. And we see here Dennis Aunga saying the EACC is corruption itself. Not our views or opinions, but this is Dennis Aunga saying the EACC is corruption itself. They do shoddy investigations and present them to court with an aim of not winning the case so that they can get kickbacks. Well, that is Dennis Aunga. Thank you, Dennis, for your sentiments there. And of course, we also have Justin Lushera. This, again, as I have mentioned, is in relation to the earlier newspaper review we did, talking about the disease has already made people millionaires, so they care not for others. We can't even manage to handle a malaria patient. What of a COVID one? They should tell us corona was a scam. I think this story in relation to police officers who are allegedly extorting money from persons who are living in the rural areas who do not have much information as far as COVID-19 and the rules that are governing the fight against COVID-19 is concerned. Well, let's take a look at one more comment here, or two more. We have here Coach Minor Manchester Wadeka. Saying, watching from the city of, well, I don't know what this means, but watching from one of the cities in Nairobi with Esther Gakuru calling her Kang'ocho Queen. Well, thank you so much, Coach Minor, for your comments. Of course, we also have Amo O saying he's watching from Eldoret. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let's take a look at another one, just the final one, and then we can hopefully take a break. This is in relation to our next topic. By the way, coming up next after we take a break is matters all about taking care of your skin. And we will have Domiana Mwangagi in studio. She is a skin expert telling us about how to take care of your skin. If you have freckles, if you have black spots, how do you get rid of those spots? But in relation to this discussion, a poster posted on our social media platform, someone here says, Nyahururu is tuned all the way, and this is Edgar saying that he's watching us. Thank you, Edgar, and we hope that you keep tuned so that you can learn a little bit more about taking care of your skin. Well, right now, why don't we take a break so that when we return, we talk about taking care of your skin and you can learn a little bit more about improving on the glow on your face. So don't go too far. The Morning Cafe will be back shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe, and this is the lifestyle segment where we're talking about all matters skincare today. And with me in studio is Domiana Mwangangi. This name, Domiana Mwangangi, who is a skin expert to help us understand all matters skin. Thank you, Domiana, for making time.
Thank you.
Your skin looks good, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's just begin by understanding the skin types, because I know we all don't have the same skin type. So how many skin types do we have?
We have different, okay, my name is Domiana. I'm a skin expert. So we have different skin type. Like we have oily skin, we have normal to oily skin. Means that's a combination skin type. Like you find that someone has a T-zone which is very oily and the other part of the face is normal. So we call it a combination skin.
When you talk about the T-zone, what's that?
T-zone is the forehead, the cheeks, and the nose. Like that is the T-zone, and the other part of the face is normal. So we find that someone would break on the cheeks only and the forehead. That is we'll call it combination of oily to normal skin type. Then we have oily skin, which someone keeps breaking out, and all over the face is all breaking out of pimples, and they are very oily and every part of the face. That is the oily skin. Then we have aged skin, or whereby someone has obvious wrinkles and fine lines, and their age actually will tell us why they are getting this type of skin.
Hold on. When you say aged skin, it means you're not old,
but you are aged. It
but
means
you're aged.
you should.
But it's not necessarily related to your age.
No. Sometimes someone would get early aging because probably they don't take care of their skin. They've been to a very bad climate that they would age. The climate or the condition where they are, it would age their skin faster than their age. Yeah, we find that someone is very young, but the skin is really aged because of early aging.
So is this something that you can actually sort out?
Yeah. This is something someone can sort out if they notice early, but if they don't take precautions like early stages, then it will be permanent. Like it will be too hard to reverse aging signs which started pretty early. So someone would start doing it skincare very early when they notice. If they don't, then they get permanent wrinkles and really deep ones, which now they will stay with it. Unless now they do advanced treatment like Botox or surgery to repair that.
And you said climate is one of the things that causes aged skin. Aged skin in this case, I didn't even know that existed, because you can imagine someone, and I've actually seen people who are very young, but the skin looks a bit wrinkled, and you wonder, is it stress? Is it too much pressure? Maybe from just life generally. So you're telling me there's climate. What else causes aged skin?
There's a lifestyle and diet, what you eat. There is how you take care of your skin. If you don't, you've never used any sunscreen, and probably you're working somewhere in Turkana, then the weather is too harsh for your type of skin. So it will age, the type of climate would make your skin age so fast compared to someone who is Nairobi, who is taking care of their skin. So again, how you eat, you don't hydrate your skin, like you don't take enough water, and you don't eat diet food. Again, everything that we eat, it reflects on our faces. So if you don't take enough water, then your skin starts aging. Like a plant, if there's no water, it starts withering. So it starts with your skin. So again, diet depends a lot how your skin will look out, how you will age faster if you don't eat healthy.
Let's talk about the diet that's supposed to prevent you, as when you're 20 years or 21 years, from getting aged skin. What kind of diet is suitable for you to ensure you don't get aged skin?
The best, like the way we normally get a dietitian telling us, do a lot of vegetables and take lots of water. Like if you take lots of water, like our body is the system. Like the way we have sewer, then there is no water. Everything gets clogged and there's no digestion, there's nothing going out. So the same as our body, if we take lots of food, like we take a lot of meat, and the meat takes longer to get digested, and there is no water, then that food will stay there, and the skin will not be getting the best nutrients, or there will not be nothing happening. So we won't get proper what do I call it, like good nutrients that will make our skin glow and look good and make it the way it's supposed to. So if then we don't hydrate our skin and we don't eat the right food, then still you show direct to our skin. And if we don't take lots of water, digestive system will not happen. Then if there's no good food on your body, on our system, then our skin will show. If you don't take enough water, then the skin will show very dehydrated, scaly, actually start peeling. If you take good water and lots of water and a lot of good vegetables, then your skin will show off. It's
How
like
much
a
water
flower.
should I take in a given day?
Like more than 8 liters. No, 8 glasses, sorry. 8 glasses of water. So in the morning, like it's a system, in the morning before breakfast, you need to take like water with lemon just to clean up your system. After breakfast, before your lunchtime, you need to take like few glasses. After lunch, still the same. Before you sleep, you have to make sure you've taken like more than 8 glasses of water. Again, depending on your work, on how your activity throughout the day, how you work.
You've mentioned something before, when you wake up early in the morning, before you eat anything, you take water with lemon. Why
yes.
lemon?
Lemon is like, it will give you a taste and it's good to clean up your system. Like it will give you like the psych to take lots of water. Like before breakfast, you need to take like 3 glasses. You see, in a normal day, you can't take like 3 glasses without just one and another one before your breakfast. So when you take a bit of lemon, then it will help you take like 3 glasses of water, like enough water before. And also it's
So
good
does it
to
make you
detoxify.
thirsty? Is that what you're saying?
No, it doesn't make you, but it gives you this, it doesn't make you too thirsty, but it makes you feel to take more water. Oh, it doesn't, you don't feel like nasty, or you don't feel like puking. Some people, when they take 2 glasses, they can't take another one. But if you have a bit of lemon, it helps you to take more water. And also it's good to detox and clean up the system.
Still on the skin types, you mentioned there's oily skin. Like you said, some people have oily skin to the point that they get pimples, they get a breakout. How then do you balance out the oiliness of your skin as if you actually have oily skin?
If you have oily skin, then to balance that, you need to have a range of products that when you apply or you wash with, it's going to balance the secretion of sebum. Why we get more or excess oil or acne, it's because the sebum secretion is a lot. So you will need products that will balance that and give you normal secretion of sebum, which is the oil that comes naturally from our system. Like it has to happen, but if it happens more or our body excretes more, then the skin has not been cleaned well, or there's nothing to balance the oils, then it becomes excess, then you start getting breakouts. And also you can get breakouts from hormonal imbalance, then from inside. So someone probably, if they are young, they're getting puberty, they're changing from a small girl to this mature girl or a man, then there's the hormonal change that when breakouts happens. So it depends.
Okay. And you've mentioned that you need a range of products, but with my little experience, some of those products are very expensive. So for someone who's listening in right now, is there a natural remedy if you are not able to afford the products that are in the market right now?
Okay, natural remedy, they're not buffed as well. Actually, a clean water, and make sure they clean their hands before they touch their face. And they make sure they use water, natural water, running water, they clean with that. That would be best. But it's good to get some products, which in the market, there's as low as someone would afford, like for 500 or less than that. But you need to get someone to tell you which type of your skin, what you need to be done to your skin. But mostly when we look at the natural remedies, they are too harsh. Some people would say apply lemon. But this lemon, yes, it has some ingredients which are good to balance sebum. But you see, it's too much. It's too much to the skin, to your skin, what your skin can take. Probably your skin is sensitive and oily. When you use lemon, it's too harsh for the sensitivity of your skin. So when you use it, it will burn than what you're thinking is going to balance your sebum.
So you get peeling of your skin.
So you get peeling and the skin gets more irritated, and healing, it will be difficult, or you will make the whatever to go on. So it's good to get something which would help you. Yes, and good products in the market which are very like reasonable, someone can take. Yes.
Let's talk about the normal skin. Most of the ladies that I know, you know, and some I've met, you'll notice their faces are usually very smooth. You ask them, what's your skin type? They say normal. Seems like, is it really the case that most people with normal skin don't get breakouts a lot? Is it because they have normal skin, or what is it?
With normal skin, it's rare to get like breakouts, and it's rare to be like concerned more because they wake up, their skin is good. So probably you find that those people, they don't use skincare because they feel like their skin is okay and they don't want to start to do anything. And it happens that if they eat well, probably they eat well, they do it. They do like taking care of their skin internally, like eating food well, like taking lots of water, then they get this normal skin. But genetically, some people, they have good skin and they have no issue whatsoever, and they have never gotten any breakouts, which it happened. And some people now, they get this acne skin, which it gets breaking out and stuff. Yeah.
So would you say that the skin types are usually natural or genetic? Or some of them, it's because of maybe someone being exposed maybe to some products? Are they natural, the skin types?
Yes, some skin types are natural. Some of them, they're not. There are factors which make someone to get like from a normal skin to acne, like factors like the food you have or the climate you change. Again, the products maybe probably you started using, maybe they are too harsh to your skin, then you start getting breakouts. Yeah, so it depends. There are factors which make your skin behave differently. Like for example, someone would be having this good skin, and all of a sudden they've changed the location to go and stay in Mombasa or different location. And whether climate change will change your body system, and one of the skin part will be affected. Yeah, so they would change from this type of skin to this type of skin, depending.
Let's talk about the, you say normal to oily.
Yes.
So we have normal to oily, we have normal skin, we have oily and aged. Aged, which I never knew existed, but today I've learned. But let's talk about normal to oily. This means someone who has combination of both oily
and normal.
You find, well, for the little that I know and friends that I know who have the same, and I have had the same kind of skin, still have it now. You find that some areas of your face will have, you know, like pimples. Back then I'd have them, especially on the forehead area, and then on this area you are clear. I mean, how do you deal with the imbalance?
There are products for combination skin. So when you're going to get products from beauty shops, first you need to understand the type of skin you have. If you are not clear or you're not sure, go to expert. They tell you this is your skin type and these are the kind of products you're supposed to use. So there are a range of products for combination skin, which it will take care of that. It will balance your skin and it will go back to normal when you use the right products. But now when someone would assume I have oily skin, then they go use products for oily skin, then it will, the parts which is dry or normal, it will make it too dry. Because essentially when you have oily skin, you use products which they have less oils in it. They actually, products for oily skin makes the skin to drier. So if you have combination, then the normal will get more dry. And sorry to say, there is normal to oily and normal to dry. There's a different combination. You get someone is normal to dry. So the most patches of our face is dry and the other part of the face is normal. So that is again combination skin. And then there is like yours, it's combination of oily to normal. Yes, so you need to get products for combination oily to normal skin.
So where do you begin when you're trying to test your skin to know what skin type you have? Where does someone begin?
If you're going to an expert, like for example me, I normally have a dermoscope machine, which we normally test it. We have the laptop and the skin analysis. Then we check it from the laptop. We see from your skin, like I won't assume you have oily skin or combination. We'll see it from the laptop, like how deep are your skin to the layers of what we can see, me and you, how is your skin from each side. So we'll see that you have these whiteheads, a lot of blackheads around the chin, around the forehead. So we will see clearly from this dermoscope machine how your skin is from inside, and we'll see clearly. It's in a application. Then it will tell us how your skin is. You have fine lines where you have blackheads from where you have uneven skin. So by the time we finish the skin test, I'll know exactly what type of your skin you are. Yes. Then you don't have a dermoscope machine, you use a paper, like a tissue. When you wash your skin and it's very clean, and you give it like 5 to 10 minutes, you patch on the side of your skin. When you patch, you see the tissue it's a bit oilier, then the part where you patched it's oily, then you will tell your skin that it's oily. Then you keep patching all of the face, and then you're getting oil on the tissue paper, then your skin is oily. Then when you patch with that tissue paper and then you're not getting nothing, your skin is no more to dry. But now you have to be careful to check on the cheeks, on the forehead, on the nose. Then you will, if you're doing it from home, then you can do it from home with a tissue paper, yes.
Well, Domina, let's talk about products. And before we go even into products that work and that are safe, what's your take on bleaching products, especially the ones that are taken for changing the color of the skin? What's your take on this?
I would say it's not safe at all, because you are trying to change, you are trying to tamper with the way skin is mentally supposed to behave. So when you tamper with something the way it's supposed to work, then it will start working differently, and at the end of the day you will get the results will be later. Immediately, yes, it could be good, but later in some years you will get to get the causes of why you tampered with your skin. Because when they use bleaching products, they're very strong metals which makes the skin to fade. They tamper with the melanin. They try to make the melanin not to produce the color that someone is supposed to. But when they use this product, they tamper with melanin, and melanin actually is meant to protect our skin. So
how is it meant to protect our skin?
Because melanin, it gives color to the skin, and if the people of color, like we are dark, we are better positioned than the white people, because the melanin protects us from sun exposure. If we are given two people, a white and a black, and they stay somewhere where there's a lot of sun, so our black skin will be more, the melanin protect our skin never to get affected by the sun. But the white, they will get affected so quickly, and aging actually happens so fast. So when someone is trying to use whitening products, they are trying to tamper and make the skin very weak. In 10 years to come, when you see that skin, you will never like it. And actually, like now, I get so many clients who are coming telling Domiana, I've been using this product for 10 years. Now I'm messed up. I want to get my skin how it used to be. There's some people who have been using for 10 years, but right now, that is when they're seeing the effect. Like they go and their teeth totally black. Their veins is not working. Their skin, they cannot stand eat. Even they eat to cook, they can't cook. Because their skin is gone to thin. They have got no melanin. Their thickness of the skin is going very thin. So now they're suffering. So it is not good at all. It is not good at all.
Is there a way someone can reverse the effects of bleaching your skin?
Yes, it is. But someone has to totally stop everything, and they will go back to their skin color, how they used to look before. So in the process, we do many treatments to correct and to take the melanin and to encourage to make the skin, the melanin bit of it, to come back to its normal state, and they go back to their skin. But now, before then, they use a lot of products to make the skin come back to the normal state, but they will go back to it's like factory setting, you go back to your normal color. Yeah, but when the skin is healthier, then they are happier, and they are happier to go back. The people have seen actually.
And how long does it take to get back your melanin skin away from now the bleaching?
It takes a while. If you had used for 10 years, it takes quite some while. And we don't like drop whatever you've been using. We keep changing slowly. Like we keep using your products and giving the right ones pole like that. And someone has to be conscious on the sunscreen, on what they eat, and lots of water. Yeah, so it takes time. It takes quite some time to take back your skin to.
So for someone who had used them for 10 years, what's the approximate time it will take to recover?
It will take like three years. like to get back their skin color, and it is difficult because they don't want to get to their normal color. So you find that it's hard again to go back to their color. So you get that they still use, they go back to their products. We are using the right products, but at the end of the day, someone would get back their skin if they are willing to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Domiana, I think many people have tried to understand why ladies who have bleached their skin have done it, and you've worked with some of them, like you've mentioned. Why do you think this bleaching craze is there, especially right now in the country? Because it's like you turn like this, a lady has bleached her skin, and they're okay with it. Some bleach the skin on a lighter note, so you will not notice immediately. But why do you think ladies are into bleaching right now?
Why do I think?
Why do you think they are into bleaching right now?
Okay, they're into bleaching because they would, like many people, they would like a skin like mine. So most of them, they think color is what will define them, which is wrong. Which they keep doing it, and at the end of the day, they don't get what they're looking for. So it's just people believe like when they get this color, it's when things will happen, or it will define themselves, which is very wrong. Yeah, and which at the end of the day, they start getting problems because these are heavy metal. You're going to overwork your liver, and it's going to affect you from inside. Then in future you'll have problems. So people, they need to get education about these things and how they're going to affect their lives later in lives. Because many people they don't know how it affects their body like later in life. They don't know. Until when they're in heat, that is when they start looking for solution, which is, again, some people, it's very late. So people, they need to be, there has to be awareness of this thing. They are not good at all, yes.
Domiana, away from now bleaching, I'd like us to look at now the products. And I know there are some that are usually orally taken, and then there are those ones you talked about earlier on where you can apply different things. But for some, they usually feel the oral medication, especially for treating your skin, is more dangerous because that's something going inside of your body. But I'd like you to help us understand if that really is the case. However, I'll allow you to answer that question after we take a break. Okay. And when you return. So the Morning Cafe will now take a break, talking to Domiana Mwangangi today about taking care of your skin. So much knowledge from this lady, and when we return, we'll get more knowledge, especially as far as what kind of products you should use and how you can take care of your skin on a daily basis, on affordable means. So don't go too far. The Morning Cafe will be back shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe. Today, in the lifestyle segment, we're talking about taking care of your skin. We learned quite a lot from Domiana, who is a skin therapist. And I know before we took a break, we mentioned about products. I've heard of ladies, Domiana, who talk about some products that are orally administered are usually more riskier than the ones administered on top of the skin. Is this the case?
No, because before you get any oral medication, normally what I do, I normally send my clients to a dermatologist. So someone would not prescribe themselves and take which one, because it's not safe. When you just prescribe yourself and take it, it's not safe. But when you go to a dermatologist, they'll give you the right medication for your condition. So it's safe to get it if you've gone to see a dermatologist. So it's safe to take medication, and I normally send many clients to dermatologists because some of them, they come and I cannot. There's a stage where the skin is at where I have it to incorporate a dermatologist where the acne is more severe, or they have bacterial infection, or it's too much that they will need to see a dermatologist first.
Okay.
Yes.
And talk about acne. What causes acne, and what are the available treatments for the same?
Yeah, causes of acne depends. Like I said earlier, that someone would get acne because of hormonal imbalance. Probably the hormonal therapy they are in, that is family planning, that will make their hormone to go haywire. So someone will get acne from that. Or someone will get acne from puberty stage, where they are changing from little girls to women, or men to big men, and so that change of hormonal, they will get acne. Or there's other acne because of the weather condition or change of climate. Someone will get acne because of that, and someone will get acne because of using harsh products to their skin. Then still there's that. So we normally see, take through the consultation with the clients, that where could be the problem? How would you be, when you give me your information, I will know the type of acne you have. Then I will know there are different treatments for different acne. So for hormonal therapy, if you're getting acne from your hormonal therapy that you are in, that I will ask you to go to your dermatologist or gynecologist to change your family planning. Because some of them, they are too much, that the hormone is not going to get balanced for a while. So someone will not like to go with this acne forever. Then there are again treatments which we do from the outside, like the skin, for acne. We have chemical pills for acne, not chemical pills for taking in, but it's a procedure done on the skin. And it's done like weekly. Someone would come every week consistently to do the acne treatment. So then we get a new skin after 3 weeks. So we normally do a treatment every week, so that when a new skin is coming, it's behaving differently the way it's been prepared to behave from the outside. So there's that one treatment that we do.
So how often does someone peel skin? Naturally, like the way we have body cycles, like every 3 weeks or a month we get our periods. Every 3 weeks we get an inch of our hair. Every 3 weeks we get an inch of our nails. So every 3 weeks we get a new skin. So essentially the top of our skin is dead skin, so it needs to be out. So every 3 weeks we need to exfoliate and remove our dead skins. So we recommend every 3 weeks someone's to do a facial, just to get rid of dead skin and prepare the skin to be glowing and looking nice. So someone would do a facial every 3 weeks to get their skin off, like how you would go to a salon every 3 weeks. It comes just automatic. Every 3 weeks you just need to go and redo your hair or do your nails, because then an inch of your nail you've gotten. That is how our body behaves. Every part of our body we get new skin. So someone will do a body scrub to exfoliate the whole body. Someone will go to an expert to do their skin because they've gotten a new skin. If you don't exfoliate, what does that mean?
If you don't exfoliate, then you get piles and piles of dead skin. That's why some people would smell like you're thinking there's a smell with this person, but you can't tell where, because they've got dead skin on their armpits, on the back of their ears, on the hair. Some people, they would say these are dandruffs, but it's that. It's actually dead skin, because when you have dead skin, your skin absorbs water. When we go to shower, most of the time we don't remove the dead skin, but the dead skin would absorb some water. So when you go to bathroom, you finish showering, you just dab yourself, but there's dead skin which left attaching to your skin, which has taken some water. So, and someone will sweat, they will smell, because that is dead, purely dead skin. On the feet, if someone they haven't done a pedicure for like 2 months, the dead skin has been piling and piling. And if the water, they get some water on their feet and they have not dried well, the skin will smell, because that is all dirt. That's why some people, when they shower, when you use a white towel, that white towel will turn brown. That is not uchafu, it's dirt, it's dead skin coming off from your body. So we need to exfoliate our body every 3 weeks. If you don't, then you will have this smell.
Interesting.
Yes.
So let's talk about taking care of dark spots, because you find, even for men, you'll find someone has black spots on the face. Some of them because maybe they went and got a shave, especially for the men, and then the shave was not so healthy, it was not done well. So how do you take care of the freckles and of course the dark spots that remain?
Okay, so we normally have this treatment for men, actually for ingrowns, that they come looking for help because they have inflamed open pores, and they have gotten this after they've got a shave, or they have, actually this time we've been getting many clients because they've been staying without doing the shave, and they tried doing it on themselves, then they get these bumps. So what we do, we have a machine that we use to burn or to correct the hair growth to come out the right way, because when you get an ingrown, it grows inside the skin, like it doesn't come out. So first we remove the dead skin, and then we pluck it, and then we use a machine like to burn. It's called high frequency, like we make it behave the way it's supposed to. But essentially we have to steam, we have to exfoliate and pluck with a tweezer, and then we use a machine to correct the skin. Yeah, so there's that treatment for men for that kind of skin.
All right. I think, for me, of course, the concern would be what's affordable for me in terms of taking care of my skin, making sure that I have that glow, especially for ladies. Everyone wants to have that glow. And by the way, in applying makeup, there's something I noticed. I'm not an expert, but something I noticed, that some people, makeup usually settles differently from others. Is there a correlation between how makeup settles on your face to the health of the skin?
Yeah, true. If you have a good skin, like me, I was late, like I was coming here, I was like 10 minutes late. But I've done very minimal makeup because I don't need to hide my marks. I have no uneven skin tone, so I need very minimal makeup. So if I put a bit of makeup, my skin will settle very quickly, and the makeup will not be cakey, because the skin has no issue. But someone here with a lot of blackheads and even skin tone, they use a lot of makeup to make the skin look even, to hide spots. So you will end up using a lot of makeup which will not settle well. So when your skin is good and smooth, and you put just a bit of makeup, your skin, the makeup will glow or will sit well, compared to someone who was under the skin is not good. So someone would think of taking care of the skin first before you think of makeup.
And talk about the impact of fake, quote-unquote, cosmetics in the industry. There are so many of them. You go to a place and you have to ask, is this legit?
I know.
Or this is not legit, because you get scared. What's the impact of makeup or cosmetics that are not, they're not legit?
Yeah. The makeup, and a lot of it is not legit. And one thing I tell my clients and many people is the price. The price will tell you. So makeup which is not legit will mess up with your skin. Let's say you've been using your skincare, it's good, you have a good regime of skincare, and you go get this makeup which is not legit, and it's not good. It will mess up your skin, it will mess up everything. So make sure you get legit makeup, and if you can, then you can stay with without makeup. Just make sure you have good skincare and make sure you've got legit makeup, because if you use good skincare and the makeup is fake, then we will go back to square zero again.
Okay. Finally, Domiana, is there a routine one can adopt that can help them improve their skin? A daily natural routine when I wake up or when I'm sleeping, where I'm not necessarily using products, but something natural that anyone can adopt, especially during COVID. Remember, we're trying to save on finances right now. So what's a simple routine that someone can adopt, even as we hopefully plan towards, buying the products and going through the procedures you've mentioned?
Like the routine in the morning, someone has to use, like, if you don't have a cleanser, but you need to have just a cleanser, something to wash your face with. If you don't have a cleanser, just use running water, but you don't use Panga soap or bar soap. Use just running water or a cleanser, and then a moisturizer, which has a sunscreen. Because at the end of the day, we need something to protect our skin. So use a sunscreen. Just wash with running water and use a sunscreen.
Running water and sunscreen.
Sunscreen, if you don't have a cleanser. Then if you don't have a sunscreen, make sure you have something to moisturize your skin. If you have oily skin, get a moisturizer which will balance your sebum. But make sure you wash and moisturize. And most importantly is the sunscreen. Make sure you have sunscreen, because sunscreen will cover and will protect your skin. And then in the evening, make sure if you had makeup, like the way you have some makeup, make sure you remove all traces of makeup. Make sure you have a makeup remover, which will remove, or a cleanser, which is a makeup remover, which is going to remove all the traces of makeup. So don't sleep with makeup. You wash and moisturize.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Domiana Mwangangi,
Thank you.
Skincare expert.
Thank you for having
to
me.
us today and giving
Thank
us so
you.
much knowledge on
Thank
taking
you.
care of the skin. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, that has been Domiana Mwangangi telling us all about skincare, helping us understand what we can do to take care of our skin. Of course, it's very important because our looks are everything. Like I always say, I like to say image is everything. But right now, let's take a look at the roads before we come to a close of the show today. A look at Uhuru Highway. Oh my, seems there's traffic going all the way, connecting to the Nyayo National Stadium here. We're seeing traffic connecting. As you're going to the CBD, we notice there's traffic going all the way. Let me just fix that up. But Uhuru Highway going into the CBD, there's a lot of traffic, as you can see here, connecting all the way to Nyayo National Stadium, as I was saying, to the roundabout area. There's traffic going into the CBD. Let's take a look at Langate Road. Coming from Langate Road, surprisingly, the road looks fairly clear, especially towards the area that connects to the Nyayo National Stadium. The roads don't look so bad. Of course, like I always like to say, around the roundabout area, there's always some bit of traffic, but it's fair. However, the concern today at this time, this is 8:45. Of course, the traffic is probably building up. Uhuru Highway is still going into the CBD. There's a bit of traffic. If you're coming also from the CBD, connecting from the roundabout that's near or around Bunyala Road, there's a bit of traffic connecting towards Nyayo National Stadium. Let's take a look at Aerodrome Road. There's traffic today, surprisingly. That's traffic connecting to the roundabout around the Bunyala Road, connecting now everyone who's going to the CBD. Let's just take a look a little bit more. Uhuru Highway, fair traffic as you connect to the Haile Selassie roundabout. Doesn't look so bad, but let's take a look at anyone who's coming from the CBD, connecting from the railway station there, coming from the CBD all the way to the Haile Selassie roundabout. There seems to be traffic if at all you're trying to get out of the CBD. Let's take a look at the road that is where the Kenya Railways Golf Course is connected. Going into the area that connects you to Ngong Road, there's no traffic so far. Like we can see here, it seems like everything is okay. But when you're coming from the Ngong Road side, going all the way to connect to the Haile Selassie roundabout, there's a bit of traffic there. Traffic along Uhuru Highway, let's look at Kenyatta Avenue. The road seems fairly clear, connecting into the CBD. Let's just take a look at the Kenyatta Avenue all the way into the central business district, there seems to be traffic connecting all the way to Imenti House. I think it's normal, especially because there's usually street lights in that particular area. But let's take a look at Globe Roundabout, always synonymous with traffic most times, especially before COVID, but things don't seem so bad. Seems like traffic is flowing at the Globe Roundabout. Let's take a look at one more area here. Let's look at one more area, and then I think we can call it a wrap. University Way, looking not too bad. It looks clear. Let's take a look at State House Road. Sometimes you'll find traffic there for anyone who's connecting from Kilimani, Kileleshwa area, coming to the CBD. And my director is asking me about Mombasa, but you know what? Let's try that next time. We'll try that next time, but it's a good idea. However, looking at what the roads look like right now, they don't look too bad, but Uhuru Highway is that particular area where I can tell you for sure there seems to be a bit of traffic, especially if you're driving into the CBD. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the Morning Cafe. As always, it's a pleasure. Remember, the conversation does not end here. You can continue tweeting us, writing to us through our social media platforms. That is TV47KE on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We had a lot of feedback from most of you who are watching us today, and I want to say many thanks to all of you who took time to write to us and be a part of the conversations we've had this morning. Thank you again. Have a lovely day, and God bless.